My name is Olivia. I'm 33. Last Tuesday at 7:43 p.m., I was standing in the marble foyer of Oak Creek Country Club, watching my mother tell 50 wedding guests that I was mentally unstable and hoarding money like a diseased animal, while my little sister stood behind her in a $12,000 Vera Wang gown I'd secretly paid for. "She's having a psychotic break," my mother Caroline announced to the rehearsal dinner crowd, her voice echoing off the crystal chandeliers. "We've filed emergency papers with the court for her own protection." My father Richard stepped forward, his hand on Savannah's shoulder. "Olivia has always struggled with reality. We're trying to help her before she hurts herself." I felt every pair of eyes in that room lock onto me. The string quartet had stopped playing. Champagne glasses hung frozen mid-sip. My fiancé Jamal stood at the head table, his face pale. "That's not true," I said quietly. "See?" My mother's voice cracked with manufactured emotion. "She can't even admit she needs help. We found evidence she's been hoarding over $800 million, claiming she owns some company. It's delusional." My sister Savannah dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. "We just want our sister back," she whispered to the crowd. "The real Olivia, not this paranoid stranger." I stood there in my $89 Macy's dress, the only thing I'd allowed myself to buy this year, and felt my face burn so hot I could feel my pulse in my teeth. But I didn't move. I didn't defend myself. Not yet. Because in my purse was an envelope from a dead woman who'd seen this coming 3 years ago. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time it is there. Let me take you back 6 years to the day I met Josephine Wright. It was September 14th, 2018. I was 27, working as a file clerk at Mercer and Associates downtown, making $32,000 a year. Her son Jamal had just started in the corporate law division. We'd been dating for 2 months when he invited me to Sunday dinner at his mother's house on Belmont Avenue. The house smelled like honey cornbread and collard greens. Josephine was 71 then, a retired federal judge with silver hair she wore in a neat bun. She had this way of looking at you like she could see straight through to your spine. "So you're the girl my son can't stop talking about," she said, pouring me sweet tea in a glass that caught the afternoon light. "Tell me about your family, Olivia." I remember my throat going dry. "They're fine. My parents live in Brookhaven. My sister Savannah just graduated from Emory." "That's not what I asked." Josephine sat across from me at her kitchen table. The mahogany was so polished I could see my reflection. "I asked about your family, not their address or credentials." Something in her voice made my eyes sting. Nobody had asked me that question before, not like that. "They don't really see me," I heard myself say. "They see someone they're disappointed in." Josephine reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. Her skin was warm and papery. "Then they're looking at the wrong thing, baby girl. You keep your eyes on who you are, not who they say you are. Promise me that." "I promise." "Good. Because I'm going to be around to remind you." She smiled, a small crease appearing at the corner of her mouth. "Someone has to make sure my son doesn't mess this up." I didn't know then that she'd only have 3 more years, or that she'd spend those years quietly building a wall around me that I wouldn't discover until I needed it most. The first betrayal happened 6 months later, on March 15th, 2019. I was still living in my studio apartment on Piedmont, still filing documents at Mercer and Associates. Savannah called me at 11:22 p.m. on a Thursday. "Dad's having a heart attack," she sobbed. "We're at Emory University Hospital. He's asking for you." I drove 40 minutes in the rain, ran through the ER in my pajamas and wet sneakers, found my family in the cardiac wing waiting room. My father was sitting up eating Jell-O. "False alarm," my mother said, not looking up from her phone. "Just indigestion." "You said heart attack." My voice came out smaller than I meant it to. Savannah shrugged. "I thought it was, sorry." But as I turned to leave, I heard my father's voice, low and cold. "At least we know she'll come running when we need her. Good to confirm." My mother laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. I drove home shaking so hard I had to pull over twice. When I checked my bank account the next morning, I had $411 left until payday. I'd used my emergency fund for gas in the parking garage. 3 days later, I found out why they'd really called me. I came home from work to find my apartment door unlocked. My laptop was gone. My filing cabinet had been searched. Every drawer in my bedroom was open. On my kitchen counter was a note in my father's handwriting. Stopped by to borrow your spare key. Mom needed to get something she left here last month. Dad. My mother had never been to my apartment. I called him. What did you take? I don't know what you're talking about, Olivia. You sound paranoid. Are you getting enough sleep? You broke into my apartment. We used a key. That's not breaking in. Maybe you should see someone about these accusations. It's concerning. He hung up. I sat on my floor for 20 minutes, staring at the open drawers. Then I went to my desk and found what was missing. The envelope from my grandfather's estate. The one that had come 2 years earlier, before he died. I'd never opened it because my father said it was just paperwork, nothing important. Now it was gone. That night I made 2 decisions. First, I would never let them have access to my space again. Second, I would stop believing them when they said things were nothing. But I was still too afraid to act. The harassment got worse over the next 2 years. My father would call me at work, demanding to know my salary. My mother would show up at my apartment building, claiming she was worried, but really photographing my car, my mailbox, my door. Savannah started posting on Facebook about her troubled sister who refuses help. She'd screenshot text messages I'd sent, normal messages about meeting for coffee, and add captions like, "Look at her trying to manipulate me again." Friends stopped calling. Distant relatives sent concerned emails asking if I was okay, if I was getting the help I needed. I wasn't getting help. I was working. At night, after my $32,000 a year file clerk job, I was building something else. Something my family didn't know about because I'd learned to keep my mouth shut. I was analyzing real estate deals, reading financial statements, teaching myself private equity from library books and free online courses. Josephine's son Jamal had introduced me to some of his colleagues. One of them, a semi-retired investor named Marcus Chen, saw something in the proposals I'd drafted. "You have instinct," he told me over coffee in January 2020. "Most people can be taught analysis. Instinct you're born with." He gave me $50,000 to prove myself. "Find me a deal. If it works, we split profits. If it fails, you owe me nothing." I found a distressed commercial property in East Atlanta, ran the numbers 17 times, presented a turnaround plan that would convert it to mixed-use residential. We made $340,000 in 9 months. Marcus introduced me to his network. By December 2020, I had $2.3 million under management. By June 2021, it was $18 million. I named the company Onyx Capital, registered it quietly, told my family I was still filing papers downtown. It wasn't a lie exactly. I did have an entry-level office job, as my own cover. I'd keep the file clerk email active, forward messages to my phone. When my mother called asking about work, I'd say, "Same old desk, same old files." Meanwhile, I was closing deals in boardrooms across Atlanta, building a portfolio that would eventually manage over $800 million in assets. But I couldn't tell them, because the moment they knew I had money, they'd find a way to take it. I learned that the hard way in November 2021. My father called me on a Tuesday. "Your mother and I are having some cash flow issues. We need $60,000. Just temporary." "I don't have $60,000, Dad." "Don't lie to me, Olivia. We know you have savings." I had $14,000 in my personal account. The rest was locked in the business, untouchable. "I don't. We raised you. We fed you. We put a roof over your head for 18 years. You owe us." Something in his voice made my stomach drop. "What's this really about?" Silence. Then, "There was an incident. At my office. A settlement. It's handled, but the legal fees. What kind of incident? That's none of your concern. We need $60,000 by Friday or we lose the house. I felt that familiar tug, the one that said family helps family, the one that made me weak. I can't, I said. Then we'll take it another way. He hung up. 3 days later, I got a letter from their attorney. They were claiming I'd stolen from the family trust, a trust I'd never heard of, and demanding restitution plus damages. Total, $85,000. I called Jamal in a panic. He was at his mother's house. Josephine took the phone. "Come here right now," she said. "Bring that letter." I drove to Belmont Avenue. Josephine was waiting on the porch with a cardigan wrapped around her shoulders, even though it was 68 degrees. She'd lost weight. I hadn't noticed before. She read the letter twice. "They're lying," she said simply. "There is no family trust. I checked county records when Jamal told me about your grandfather's estate. Your father drained everything your grandfather left and spent it on legal fees for a harassment settlement at his company. He paid a woman $500,000 to stay quiet." "How do you know that?" "Because I was a federal judge for 23 years, baby girl. I know how to read court documents. And I know how to see what's been sealed." She folded the letter carefully. "They're panicking because they're broke, and they think you're weak enough to fix it for them. What do I do?" "You do nothing. You let me handle this." She pulled out her phone, made 3 calls. By Monday, my father's attorney had withdrawn the demand letter. No explanation. Just gone. I asked Josephine how she'd done it. "I reminded some people that filing false legal claims is a crime," she said, "and that I still have friends at the courthouse who like me better than they like money." She made me tea. We sat on her porch until the sun went down. "Olivia," she said quietly, "when I'm gone, and I will be gone sooner than Jamal thinks, you're going to need to protect yourself. Your family won't stop. They'll escalate. You're not—" "Hush. Listen. I'm putting some things in order. Documents, evidence, insurance." She took my hand. "When the time comes, you'll know what to do. Just promise me you won't let them make you small." "I promise." She squeezed my fingers. "Good girl." Josephine Wright died on February 8, 2022. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. She'd known for 6 months and told no one except her attorney. The funeral was on a Wednesday. It rained. My father and mother didn't come. They sent a card that said, "Our condolences to the Wright family," like Jamal and I weren't engaged, like Josephine hadn't been family. I cried so hard at the gravesite I couldn't breathe, but I didn't know yet that she'd left me a weapon. The public humiliation happened 4 months later, in June 2022. I was at my office job, still maintaining the cover, still pretending to be a file clerk, even though Onyx Capital now managed $340 million in assets. I'd just closed a $50 million deal on a Chicago commercial property. My real office was on the 47th floor of a building downtown, with biometric elevator access and my name on the door. But once a week, I'd show up at the old Mercer and Associates building, file some papers, answer phones, keep the story alive. My mother walked into the lobby at 2:17 p.m. She was carrying shopping bags from Neiman Marcus. Her hair was freshly colored, that expensive honey blonde she got done every 6 weeks at a salon she claimed to afford on my father's consultant salary. "Olivia," she said loudly. The receptionist looked up. 3 people in the waiting area turned. "I need to talk to you." "I'm working, Mom. This will only take a minute." She smiled at the receptionist. "I'm her mother. She won't mind." I led her to the file room, shut the door. "Your sister needs $20,000 for her engagement ring," she said. No preamble, no greeting. "We're short. You need to cover it. Savannah's engaged to Marcus Leland. His family has money. This is important, Olivia. We can't look cheap." "I don't have $20,000. My mother's face went cold. "You have money. I know you do. You've been hiding it. I haven't. Don't lie to me. She stepped closer. We've seen the bank statements, the ones you thought you deleted from your laptop. The laptop they'd stolen from my apartment 3 years ago. You had no right. We had every right. We're your parents. We raised you. Everything you have came from us. She straightened her purse strap. You'll transfer $20,000 to Savannah's account by Friday, or we'll make this very difficult for you. Is that a threat? It's a fact. She opened the door, turned back, smiled. You've always been selfish, Olivia. Ever since you were little. Always keeping things for yourself. Never thinking about family. She said it loud enough for the receptionist to hear. I stood in that file room for 5 minutes after she left. My hands were shaking. My face was burning. But something else was happening too. Something was hardening inside me. Something that felt like a door closing. I transferred $20,000 to Savannah's account that Friday. But I also did something else. I called a lawyer, not Jamal, someone separate, and asked about protective measures. Restraining orders. Cease and desist letters. Ways to create legal barriers. Are you in danger? The lawyer asked. Not physically, but they're escalating. Document everything. Save every text, every email, every voicemail. Build a timeline. If you need protection later, you'll have evidence. I started that day, created a spreadsheet, logged every demand, every threat, every public humiliation. The file grew to 144 pages over the next year. In August 2022, I got a voicemail from my father at 6:14 a.m. Olivia, it's Dad. We need to talk about your future. Call me back immediately. I didn't call. I'd learned that immediate demands meant they wanted something they had no right to ask for. He called again at 7:30 a.m., then at 9:15, then at 11:43. By 2 p.m., he showed up at the Mercer and Associates building. We need to discuss your inheritance, he said in the lobby. What inheritance? From your grandfather. There were assets you don't know about. We've been managing them for you, but we need your signature on some paperwork. What paperwork? Power of attorney. So we can continue handling things properly. It's just a formality. Every alarm bell in my body was screaming. I need to think about it. There's nothing to think about. We're your parents. We're trying to help you. His voice was getting louder. People were staring. Unless you don't trust us. Is that it? You think we'd steal from our own daughter? I felt my throat close up. I didn't say that. Then sign the papers. I need time. Time for what? To talk to that boyfriend of yours? To turn our own daughter against us? He stepped closer. His breath smelled like coffee and something sour. You're being paranoid, Olivia. Just like your mother said. Maybe you do need help. I walked away, got in my car, drove to my real office, the one with my name on the door, the one they didn't know existed, and sat in my leather chair with my hands shaking. That's when I found the first clue. There was a package waiting for me. No return address. Postmarked February 10th, 2022, 2 days after Josephine's funeral. It had been sitting in my office mail for 6 months because I'd been too busy to check the pile. Inside was a small brass key and a note in Josephine's handwriting. For when they push too far. Box 447, First National Bank, Peachtree Street. You'll know when you need it. J. I drove to the bank immediately, showed them the key. They led me to the vault. Safe deposit box 447 contained a sealed manila envelope with my name on it, instructions written on the outside. Do not open until they threaten legal action. Trust me. J. I took it home, put it in my own safe, waited. The threat came 3 months later. November 2023. Jamal and I had just gotten engaged. We were planning a small wedding for March 2024. My parents weren't invited to the engagement party. I'd learned to protect my joy from them, but somehow Savannah found out and posted about it on Instagram. My sister is getting married and didn't tell our family. Guess we're not good enough for her new life. Hashtag family betrayal. Hashtag hurt. The comments poured in. Friends from high school, distant cousins, random people saying I was ungrateful, selfish, cruel. My father called the next day. We need to meet, all of us. This has gone too far. There's nothing to meet about. Yes, there is. We're concerned about your mental health. You've been making erratic decisions, cutting off your family, spending money recklessly on this wedding. We think you need help. I'm fine. You're not fine, Olivia. We've consulted with a doctor. He agrees you're showing signs of a psychotic break. We're filing emergency conservatorship papers for your own protection. The line went dead. I sat there in my apartment, the phone still pressed to my ear, and felt the floor drop out from under me. Conservatorship, legal control of my assets, my decisions, my life. They were going for everything. I called Jamal. He was at a conference in New York. They can't do that, he said. You're clearly competent. No judge would. Your mother was a judge. How hard is it to find one who'd sign emergency papers? Silence. I'm coming home, he said. Don't do anything until I get there. But I didn't wait. I went to my safe, opened it, took out Josephine's envelope. The seal broke easily. Inside were 4 items: a letter in Josephine's handwriting, a USB drive labeled Evidence, a business card for an attorney named Patricia Moss, and a copy of a legal document I'd never seen before. I read the letter first. It was dated February 1st, 2022, 1 week before she died. Dear Olivia, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and your father is doing exactly what I knew he would do. He's trying to take control of your assets through conservatorship or power of attorney. He's calling you crazy, making you doubt yourself, turning people against you. I'm sorry I couldn't stop this while I was alive. I tried, but Richard doesn't hear reason. He only hears documents. Do you remember that Sunday in my kitchen when I asked about your family? You said they don't see you. I told you to keep your eyes on who you are, not who they say you are. I meant it, baby girl. The USB drive contains evidence I've been collecting for 3 years. Bank statements showing your father drained your grandfather's trust to pay a $500,000 harassment settlement at his company. Legal documents proving he lied about the family trust he claimed you stole from. Recorded phone calls where he discusses manipulating you into signing over power of attorney. Screenshots of your sister's social media posts that she later deleted. Credit reports showing your parents are $850,000 in debt. I also included proof of your actual net worth. Corporate filings for Onyx Capital. Bank statements showing the $800 million in assets you manage. Documentation of every deal you've closed. Biometric access logs proving you're the CEO, not a file clerk. The original trust documents from your grandfather are with my attorney, Patricia Moss. Her office is at 2847 Peachtree Street, Suite 1200. She's been holding them since your grandfather died. Your father told you they were lost in probate. They weren't lost. He just didn't want you to know what they said. Your grandfather left everything to you, Olivia. Not your parents. Not your sister. You. The family trust your father claims he manages never existed. He spent your grandfather's money and has been living on debt ever since. Now he's panicking because you're successful and he needs to control you before you discover the truth. Don't show this to anyone. Not your father, not your mother, not even Savannah. Wait until the right moment. Patricia will know what to do. You are not paranoid. You are not selfish. You are not having a psychotic break. You are a brilliant businesswoman who built an empire while working a minimum wage cover job to protect yourself from people who should have protected you. I see you, baby girl. I always have. All my love, Josephine Wright. P.S. The rehearsal dinner. That's when you do it. They'll be confident. They'll have an audience. They'll think they've won. Let them think that. Then let the truth speak for itself. I read it 3 times. My hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. I plugged in the USB drive, opened the first file. It was a video recording. My father, sitting in a lawyer's office, talking about Creative ways to access Olivia's assets without her consent. The timestamp was from August 2022. The second file was a spreadsheet. Every dollar my parents had borrowed from me over the years. Every emergency that turned out to be Savannah's shopping spree, or my mother's salon visits, or my father's attempt to cover his mounting debts. Total, $320,000. None of it repaid. The third file made me sit down. It was the deed to my parents' house, the 5-bedroom mansion in Brookhaven they were so proud of. They didn't own it. The bank had foreclosed in September 2023. My father had somehow delayed the eviction with legal maneuvers, but the house was in default. The actual owner of the defaulted debt was listed as a holding company I didn't recognize. I searched the company name. It was a subsidiary of Onyx Capital. I owned my parents' house. I'd bought the debt portfolio 6 months ago as part of a bulk real estate deal and never looked at the individual properties. It was just line items on a spreadsheet. Investment property in Brookhaven. Mortgage in default. Projected return on eviction and resale. I hadn't known. But now I did. I sat there in my apartment at 11:47 p.m., staring at documents that proved everything I'd suspected and a few things I hadn't, and I started to laugh. Not happy laughter. The kind that comes when the absurdity is so complete you can't process it any other way. Then I called Patricia Moss. She answered on the second ring. "I've been waiting for this call for almost 2 years," she said. "Josephine told me you'd know when the time was right." "They're filing conservatorship papers." "I know, I have contacts at the courthouse. The petition was submitted this morning. Emergency hearing scheduled for next Tuesday." "Can they win?" "Not with what Josephine left you. But you have to be willing to fight, Olivia. You have to be willing to let the truth come out, all of it, in public." I thought about my mother's voice in that file room, my father's threats in the lobby, Savannah's Instagram posts calling me selfish and crazy. I thought about Josephine's letter, the rehearsal dinner. Let them think they've won. "I'm getting married in 4 months," I said, March 16th. "Rehearsal dinner is the night before. My parents will be there. So will 50 of their friends. My father's already planning to give a speech about family." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "You want to do it there?" "Josephine said that's when I should do it." "Then we'll be ready. I'll prepare the documentation. You focus on staying calm. Let them escalate. Let them perform. The more confident they are, the harder they'll fall." I hung up. For the first time in my entire life, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. The next 4 months were a masterclass in restraint. My parents filed the conservatorship petition. I didn't fight it publicly. I let my lawyer handle the legal response quietly while I continued my life as if nothing was happening. My mother called me in January. "We've hired a wedding planner for Savannah. She needs $40,000. You'll cover it." "I can't do that, Mom." "Yes, you can. Don't be selfish." I transferred $40,000. Patricia told me to document it. "Let them take everything they can. It'll make the reversal more dramatic." My father showed up at my apartment in February. Said he needed to borrow $200,000 for a business opportunity. Had Jamal sign a promissory note as my representative. I found out later the money went to pay off credit cards and lease payments on luxury cars they were about to lose. Savannah posted on Instagram about her beautiful engagement ring. 3 carats, custom setting, $28,000. I'd paid for it. She told everyone her fiancé Marcus bought it. I saved the receipt. Meanwhile, I kept running Onyx Capital, closed a $75 million deal in February, made the Forbes 30 under 30 list for private equity under a professional headshot they'd never recognize because I looked so different from the file clerk my parents described. I kept my head down. Let them think I was weak. Let them think they were winning. The rehearsal dinner was March 15th, 2024. Oak Creek Country Club. White tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, string quartet playing Vivaldi, champagne fountains, 50 guests in designer clothes eating duck confit and laughing about golf handicaps. My parents arrived at 6:30 p.m. in a leased Mercedes they'd told everyone they owned. My mother wore a $6,000 gown. My father had a new Rolex, fake, but good enough to fool people at a distance. Savannah was radiant in her Vera Wang. Marcus stood beside her looking nervous but proud. Jamal's mother's absence felt like a weight in the room. There was an empty chair at the head table, a small card that said, "In loving memory of Josephine Wright." I'd insisted on that. My parents sat at the family table. I was seated with Jamal at the head table facing the room. Dinner started at 7:15 p.m. My father gave a toast at 7:43 p.m. To family, he said, standing with his champagne glass raised. No matter what challenges we face, no matter what disagreements we have, family is everything. Savannah and Marcus, may you always remember that blood is thicker than water. And Olivia, he turned to look at me, smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. May you learn what it means to put family first. The room clapped politely. I smiled, sipped my water. My mother stood next. I want to talk about Olivia for a moment, she said. The room got quiet. As many of you know, we've been concerned about her mental health lately. She's been making some troubling claims, saying she owns a company, claiming to have millions of dollars, refusing to help her family in our time of need. I felt Jamal's hand find mine under the table. I squeezed it, didn't move. We've tried to help her, my mother continued, but she won't listen to reason. We've even had to take legal steps to protect her from herself. It breaks my heart, but we love her too much to let her destroy her life. Savannah stood, dabbed at her eyes. I just want my sister back, she whispered. The real Olivia, not this paranoid, selfish person she's become. The room was completely silent. I stood up, every eye locked onto me. Thank you for that, Mom, I said quietly. I'd like to say something too. My father's face went pale. Olivia, this isn't the time. No, Dad, it's exactly the time. I pulled out my phone, opened a file, connected to the room's AV system. I'd asked the venue coordinator for the access code earlier that day. The projection screen behind the head table lit up. I want to show everyone something, I said. The first image appeared, a foreclosure notice, property address, 4782 Hawthorne Drive, Brookhaven. My parents' house. This is the home my parents told everyone they own. The stunning 5-bedroom mansion my mother mentioned last month to the Atlanta Society magazine. According to this bank document dated September 12, 2023, it's been in foreclosure for 18 months. My mother's face went white. Where did you get that? The next slide appeared, a credit report showing $850,000 in debt. This is my father's credit report. As you can see, he's maxed out 17 credit cards, has 3 cars in lease default, and owes $120,000 in legal settlements from a harassment case at his former company. My father stood. This is a violation of privacy. It's public record, Dad. Your attorney, Patricia Moss, pulled it for the conservatorship hearing, the one you filed claiming I'm mentally incompetent. I clicked to the next slide. The conservatorship petition. My father's signature at the bottom. My parents filed emergency papers 3 months ago trying to gain control of my assets. They claimed I was having a psychotic break, that I was hoarding money, that I was a danger to myself. I clicked again. Corporate filings for Onyx Capital appeared. My name listed as founder and CEO. This is the company they say doesn't exist. Onyx Capital, founded in 2020. Currently managing $847 million in assets across real estate and private equity. These are the SEC filings. These are the bank statements. These are the corporate tax returns. The room was frozen. I clicked to the next slide. A photo of me standing in front of a building cutting a ribbon. The sign behind me said Onyx Capital Headquarters. This photo was taken in October 2023 at our headquarters opening on Peachtree Street. I'm the woman in the center, the one my mother says is delusional. Savannah's fiancé Marcus was staring at the screen with his mouth open. I clicked to the next slide, a receipt from Tiffany & Company. Savannah's engagement ring. Payment method, Olivia J. Morrison. Date, November 3rd, 2023. This is the ring my sister is wearing right now, the one she told everyone Marcus bought for her. I paid for it. $28,400 after tax. Savannah's face went from white to red. You're lying. I have the credit card statement. Would you like to see it? She sat down hard. I clicked to the final slide. A promissory note. $200,000. Signed by my father and Jamal. Date. February 14th, 2024. This is the loan my father asked for 2 months ago. He told Jamal it was for a business investment. The money went to pay off credit cards and prevent his leased Mercedes from being repossessed. The car he drove here tonight. The one he doesn't own. My father was shaking. You have no right. I have every right, Dad. You tried to have me declared incompetent. You filed legal papers claiming I'm mentally ill. You told 50 people tonight that I'm paranoid and selfish. I'm just showing them the truth. I turned off the projector. The room stayed silent. There's one more thing, I said. The house you're living in? The one in foreclosure? I own the debt. Onyx Capital acquired it 6 months ago as part of a bulk real estate portfolio. I didn't know it was yours until recently. But now that I do, I'm exercising my right as the creditor. I pulled out a document, handed it to my father. This is a 30-day eviction notice. You have until April 15th to vacate the property. I've also filed a countersuit against your conservatorship petition, citing malicious intent and financial fraud. My attorney has all the evidence Josephine Wright collected before she died, including recordings of you discussing ways to manipulate me into signing over power of attorney. My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. I'm not doing this for revenge, I said quietly. I'm doing this because Josephine told me to let the truth speak for itself. So here it is, the truth. All of it, in front of everyone. I looked at Savannah. I paid for your ring. I paid for your wedding planner. I paid for the Vera Wang dress you're wearing. I did it because I thought that's what family does. But I was wrong. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't try to have you declared insane so they can steal everything you've built. I picked up my purse, looked at Jamal. I'm ready to go. He stood immediately. We walked toward the exit. Behind us, the room erupted. I heard my mother's voice. She's lying. Someone stop her. I heard my father. Those documents are fake. She's mentally ill. I heard Savannah start to cry. And then I heard Marcus's voice, cold and clear. The ring receipt has a Tiffany serial number. That's not fake. We walked out into the March evening. The air was cool. Jasmine was blooming somewhere nearby. Jamal didn't say anything until we got to the car. My mother would have loved that, he said quietly. I started to cry. Not sad tears, the kind that come when you've been holding your breath for years and finally let go. She planned all of it, I said. Down to the rehearsal dinner. She knew they'd be there. She knew they'd perform. She knew exactly when to let them fall. She knew you, Jamal said. That's all she needed to know. We drove home in silence. The fallout was immediate. My parents were evicted on April 12th. They'd tried to fight it in court, but the debt was legitimate, and the foreclosure was final. They moved into a rental apartment in East Point, a 2-bedroom with carpet that smelled like cigarettes. The conservatorship petition was dismissed on April 18th. The judge reviewed Josephine's evidence and issued a scathing rebuke of my father's malicious and fraudulent attempt to exploit the legal system for financial gain. Savannah's engagement ended on April 22nd. Marcus called it off after discovering the $40,000 wedding planner bill and the $12,000 Vera Wang dress had both been charged to my accounts. He released a statement saying he could not in good conscience marry into a family built on deception. Savannah deleted her Instagram account on April 23rd. My mother sent me an email on May 1st. Subject line, "How could you?" I didn't open it. I forwarded it to Patricia Moss for documentation. My father tried to call 17 times in May. I blocked his number after the third voicemail threatened legal action for defamation. There was no defamation. Everything I'd said was true. Everything I'd shown was public record. The truth doesn't defame, it just reveals. I got married on June 8th, 2024. Small ceremony, 40 people. None of them were my parents. Jamal's family filled the left side of the aisle. My chosen family, colleagues, mentors, friends who'd seen me build Onyx from nothing, filled the right. We left an empty chair in the front row, placed a single white rose on it. The program said, reserved for Josephine Wright, who saw everything and prepared accordingly. I didn't cry during the ceremony. I smiled. Because I wasn't sad anymore. I was free. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my office on the 47th floor. It's October now. The leaves outside my window are turning amber and gold. Onyx Capital manages $1.2 billion in assets. We just closed a $200 million deal in Austin. Forbes wants to do a profile. I said yes. I'm not hiding anymore. My personal life is quiet. Jamal and I have a townhouse in Virginia Highland with a garden where I grow tomatoes and basil. We have a cat named Josephine. She's gray with green eyes, and she sleeps in the patch of sun by the window every afternoon at 3 p.m. I visit Josephine Wright's grave on the first Sunday of every month. Bring fresh flowers. Sit on the grass and tell her about the deals I've closed and the life I've built. Thank you, I say every time, for seeing me when no one else did. The last time I saw my parents was in July. They were in line at a grocery store in East Point. My mother was using coupons. My father was buying generic brands. They didn't see me. I didn't say hello. I just walked past, carrying my groceries in reusable bags, and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even satisfaction, just nothing. And that's how I knew I was finally free. If you're watching this and you've ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to protect you, type "I walked away" in the comments. Or if you chose to stay and fight for your boundaries from the inside, type "I stayed and fought." Both are brave. Both are valid. Both require strength most people will never understand. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. And remember, silence isn't peace. Silence is just the price you pay for someone else's comfort. You don't owe them that price.